Nature has no qualms about seducing a woman into cheating on her husband. Nature has no cares about this stuff because, as Schopenhauer says here, nature has made it the calling of the young, strong, and handsome men to look after the propagation of the human race, so that the species may not degenerate. This is the firm will of nature, and it finds its expression in the passions of women. This law surpasses all others in both age and power. Woe then to the man who sets up rights and interests in such a way as to make them stand in the way of life. For whatever he may do or say, they will, at the first significant onset, be unmercifully annihilated. For the secret, unformulated, nay, unconscious, but innate moral of woman is, we are justified in deceiving those who, because they care little for us, that is to say, for the individual, imagine that they have obtained the rights over the species. The constitution, and consequently the welfare of the species, have been put into our hands and entrusted to our care through the medium of the next generation which proceeds from us. Let us fulfill our duties conscientiously. Now, there's a lot being said here, but the core of it is that there's an unconscious force inside of woman that gives her an entitlement to a profound destiny, because her job is to forward the health of the entire species. She is in charge of making sure that the next generation of the race is as handsome and powerful as possible. And this means that she is beyond good and evil in her soul. Her primal instincts are beyond good and evil. They do not give a flying fuck about anything you put in the way of them. They just want to bang the handsomest, most chad, most juicy, biggest brained alpha male possible, because that's how we create powerful and healthy children, and that's nature's goal. That's what nature wants. She wants lions and she wants gazelles, and she will do whatever she can to make sure that she's getting health and strength and power, because that's what she is concerned with. And so if you go as a man full of all these delusions that you will put together institutions like marriage, or you'll put together some type of equal rights, you'll say this stuff, or we'll create up these rational equal relationships, and this is what you see with the whole modern setup of relationships that have basically shown up since Schopenhauer's day, this idea of these sort of contract-based relationships where women and men shake hands and they say we'll share gender roles and we'll kind of neutralize ourselves and whatnot, and we'll be loyal and honest with each other. You set up anything at all that's trying to mitigate this fundamental core reality, and you're making a mistake. It's a delusion of man to think of this, and it's a mistake of man to listen to a woman demand these things and not understand what this actual instinct is. Because the urge inside a woman in the most fundamental way is she wants to get dicked down by the biggest, handsomest, youngest Chad she can find. She wants to find the college age football stud. She wants to find Chad, and she wants to get ravished by him so that she can have his beautiful, powerful seed and make juicy boyos for the next generation. And she will have no qualms about doing that, about receiving that love off that man and marrying another man and having that other man raise those kids. And you can find lots of stories. Go up onto Reddit or wherever you want to go, or Twitter or whatever, and look for these stories. Look for these people giving out about this stuff, these people who are into things like the red pill and whatnot, and you'll see them talk about this over and over. You know, the rise of genetic tests in the last 10 years have really started to reveal a lot of these stories, where there was one story I heard about a man who shot himself. It was actually a girl telling the story, and she was saying that she had this perfect family, and her dad and her mum got on really well, and she loved their dad and she cared about him so much, and it was brilliant, and dad was really happy. And then one day they decided, oh, like, you know, the dad was like 50, the girl was like 20 or something like that, so they're like, oh, let's get an ancestry test and check out where we're from and stuff like this and see what we have in the past. And they took the ancestry test, and the daughter was like, and looked at the dad's one. Her daughter realized that the dad and her have different genetics, they have different ancestry, and that really confused. They weren't related, you know. That really confused her. That really kind of like made her ponder. It's like, oh, well, there must be something wrong. So she called up, you know, the ancestry company, and they were like, you know, this has gone wrong, can we do the test again? It's like, yeah, sure, send it all in. So they send it again, and the same results come back. And then they start to do all the other kids, and, you know, all the other kids come up as different genetics than the father. And suddenly the father's like, whoa, what the hell is this? And they say it to the wife. And she's like, this is so weird. What's going on here? Completely naive. And the wife just freezes. The wife just goes, you know, blank. And then they're all sort of creeped out. They're like, why is the wife acting like this? And then the wife starts to cry, and she starts to explain, and she starts to tell the story about the guy next door. And then all of a sudden it dawns on the father, it dawns on the family, that all of the kids were sired by the man next door, by actually the friend of the father, apparently, who lived next door for a while. And this hits them like a truck. And then we start to realize that this whole fantasy, this whole thing that was set up was complete delusion. It was complete, like he lived an entire life. This is how savage nature is. And so he went off and he drove off into a shed. Nobody could find him for a couple of days. And then his father drove out to the shed or something like this, or his uncle or his cousin or something like that, and they found him on a seat, shotgun, blew his brains out, obviously. So that's how hard it was. That whole fantasy that man had inside of his head about his family, his beautiful wife, his beautiful kids, that fantasy created inside of his mind to get him to participate in life. Nature gives zero fucks. Nature is savage beyond belief. And nature, operating through woman, would do something like that to him. And the whole drama of love, the whole drama of romance can be as real as it ever is. It can feel that real. But this is what it can be underneath the surface. These secret truths of life. This is the red pill, this is the black pill, this is the revelation. This is when you pull Maya apart, and this is what you see, is that it can be that much of a lie. You can spend your entire life feeding these children, believing that you're own, building this house, being with this woman, and she could have carried other men's children completely without you knowing, because you were caught up in your delusion and unaware of what was going on. And she did that probably because that other man on some level seemed stronger, seemed more attractive, and seemed more handsome. She wanted to breed with him. There was something inside of her that felt those deep urges that she needed it off him, and she stuck with the other guy for whatever reason, maybe the convenience of the romance. And who knows, she's not like planning this stuff out in some type of conscious way. She's not like putting her hands together and saying, this is my evil plan or something like this. Her instincts are sort of carrying her along, because nature is using her like a puppet string as well. Both of them are getting strung along, and this is the savageness at the end of it. He ends up killing himself in probably the greatest depression you could ever imagine. Imagine the bleakness of that man's experience, sitting in that shack before he puts the shotgun to his face and exits samsara, only to be reborn again in some other part of the world. Imagine the depths of despair he felt. They're not once the romantic delusion is popped and you realize that many of the stories end like this, it's not Hollywood. It's not a happy ending all the time. Many people's realities end up like this. It really makes you ask a couple of questions. It really makes you say to yourself, well, these black-pilled Buddhists are kind of onto something.